Hello, everyone. Um, Interesting because I've got a whole lot on my mind. I usually don't have a whole lot on my mind, but you can see the tag on this video, and it says racism talking about it. But let me start out with this first. I was getting ready today to do racism, talk about racism, and I was like, what in the heck do I do it on? And as many of you know, I had cancer twice in the past and had a lot of chemotherapy and a lot of radiation done on me. God has decided that I am here for the duration. I'll probably outlive all of you. But part of that process they don't tell you about when you're getting chemo and radiation is they don't tell you that years later your teeth will start falling out. And unfortunately, mine are really pretty bad. And tonight, one of my front ones fell out, and it's embarrassing. I've got to tell you, it is so embarrassing. If you could keep me in prayer, over the next month, I will be going in to get dentures. They're going to have to take all my teeth out. And I feel I'm much too young for that, but, on the other hand, at least I'm alive. So why am I mentioning this? Well, number one, I almost went and crawled under a rock tonight and said I don't want to face anybody because now they're going to see my teeth gone. I'm going to look like some, I don't want to say anything, derogatory towards anybody, but I'm going to look really bad, and it's embarrassing. It really is. So I'm sitting here thinking about it. Why do I feel like that? It's because it's my appearance. Over the last 6 months, my appearance has changed dramatically. My hair's gotten longer, grows out in weird places and everything else. But it's kind of hard to deal with when you know that people are going to look at you based on your appearance. And no matter how much we all say we don't do it, we do. I mean, I dare anybody out there to honestly say that when they walk up to somebody, they don't start, looking them up and down and judging them and making a notion about what they'll be like and everything like that. We all do it, unfortunately. And it's sad because in Romans 2, verse 11, it says, "For God shows no partiality." And we shouldn't be doing this. So I'm sitting here walking around right now with my teeth literally just falling out of my head. Bit into a piece of pasta and my tooth just came out. And it's embarrassing. But then I started thinking, what do people who experience racism really experience? Or how do they feel when somebody looks at them and judges them based on the color of their skin? I mean, I'm lucky. My teeth are falling out. You're going, how's that lucky? My teeth are falling out. So they're going to look at me and go, well, poor guy, pat me on the head and move along, right? But it's given me kind of a dose of reality. And the reality is there's a lot of people out there, judged and, judged on the basis of the color of their skin. And it's not right. It's really not. And I think we all harbor. The prejudice is kind of a hard word to use because all of us look at people who are different than us, whether it be height, whether it be weight, or whatever. And all of us look at people and judge. We do. I know everybody here do. You can go on Facebook and you can look all up and down and you can see it everywhere. People are judging each other based on the color of their skin, and it needs to stop. It really needs to stop. John 7 verse 24 says, "Do not judge by appearances, but judge with right judgment." Judge with right judgment and do not judge on appearances. Now, I don't know if this is true, but in the Apostle Paul's hometown of Tarsus, they say, and I almost got a chance to go there when I was overseas last year, they say that there's a statue, and I don't know if it's just one of those things, one of those theories that people are putting out there, but they say there's a statue of Paul, the Apostle Paul, in the middle of Tarsus, his hometown, where he came from, and that statue is not very, it's not very good. It doesn't do him a good look. They say it's like 5'2", hunched over, and he's got some disfigurements here and there. And some of the they say describes Paul that way. Now, that's not a biblical thing, because who cares? The reality is, who cares? But they say they have writings on him. And I got thinking, here's Paul, one of the greatest messengers of the Word of God, of Jesus Christ, ever. And yet, people are still trying to find a way to see what he looks like. The bottom line is, who cares? Who gives iota? Who cares? Because it's not about what's here. Because I've seen beautiful people on the outside who are as ugly as they possibly can be on the inside. I have, in the Marine Corps, I had a lot of, African American friends, brothers and sisters in the Marines, and I absolutely loved it. I was fortunate enough to come from a small town in Oregon. Excuse me. The reality is in that small little town, we didn't have any African Americans. We didn't have them. Never saw one till I joined the Marine Corps and went to the big city. And it was funny because when I first met him, I was like, hey, what's up? And I was just happy to see him, and they were happy to see me. And then as I got into the barracks and started walking around, talking around to other people, I started noticing this thing called racism. People were going, don't hang out with them. They're from the hood and stuff like that. My point being is, I went in to see him. I had never, seen one before in my life. So I was accepting. I didn't have any preconceived notions. I loved them. I thought they were awesome people. Then as I got back to the barracks, people started saying, don't hang around them, started pawning off their race views on me. And then I started doing that, and then pretty soon I said, that's not cool. Luckily, I escaped it. But, racism, what is it? I mean, you think about it, racism's so brutal, because we're judging somebody based on the color of their skin. We are judging an entire race of people on some bad apples. There may be some bad apples in African American, Asian, Caucasian, or something else, and we're going to use that to justify our racist views against an entire race? That's crazy. Galatians 3:28, a lot of you have heard it, says, there is neither Jew nor Greek. There is neither slave nor free. There is no male and female, for you are all one in Jesus Christ. When we lose sight of that, we're in trouble. Because you know what? God does not base his love for you on how you look, how you appear, what color your skin is. I'm so thankful for that. It's unreal. The reality is, God wants our soul. He wants our heart. He doesn't care about the race. I have seen, one of my idols, Martin Luther King. Think about him. My gosh, that man was persecuted. He went through the ringer. The man never lost sight of his love for people. And people would say that he's only cares for the African American race, and he did not. He just loved everybody. He was a very wise man, intelligence-wise. But the awesome thing about him was you could just see the love of people coming through him. But you could also see the hurt in his eyes because of how people were treated that were in his race, that were African American. Rosa Parks wasn't even allowed to sit on the bus up front. She had to go to the back. She started a whole wave of a revolt by refusing to do that, because you know what? She's a person. She's a human being created just like anybody else, except she has a different color of skin. And how dare anybody, and I mean anybody, to walk up to her and judge her poorly because of the color of her skin. Now we get into all that's going on right now. You look on Facebook and everywhere you see, there's some horrific things being said. There's some horrific things, sorry. I'm starting to learn how to talk without that one too. I'm so sorry. There's some very bad things being said right now about BLM, and BLM saying bad things about white, and they're all based on one thing. One thing. They are based on a few bad apples in each race. We had a few bad cops. But do we judge all of the police officers on those actions? And this is probably going to draw some hate mail for me, but I don't care, because not all cops are bad. There were a few out there who did something horrible, and honestly, from what I've seen, that dude looks as guilty as anything. But I'm going to leave that up to the court of law, because there may have been something I didn't see. Now, I often wonder, now those cops probably looked at that African American man, and I'm sure there was something going on that was racist there. There may not have been, but in a lot of cases, it kind of points in that direction. Now, once again, I know there's going to be some people that hate what I just said, but deep down inside, if we're honest with ourselves, we know that's the case. We know that's the case. Now, getting back to the original thing, we have got to stop with looking at everybody as black and white, judging them on what they look like. We have got to stop doing that, people, because this country's being torn apart. Every day we just go further and further and further away from the way God had created us to be all one, and we're just getting split up into so many different directions over this silly thing called racism. And it's not even all about racism either. It's also about classes. In other words, well, you look like this, you do this, you went to that school, you did this. There's just too much division. Remember, for we are all one in Jesus Christ. Galatians 3:28. Read that. Think about it. Because we're all one. God does not look at us and judge us by our race, color, or creed. He just doesn't do that. So we've got to knock it off. So social media, unfortunately, to me, it's like a bellow. You know, when the blacksmiths out there and they have the bellow on the side, and they put the piece of iron into the fire, and then all of a sudden they crank that bellow up and down, it fans the flames, and it gets hotter, and the fire or the steel starts turning a deeper and deeper color red where they can shape it. That's what people are doing nowadays on social media. They are saying some of the most vile things I've ever seen. I mean, it's horrible, and it's just fanning the fuel. So if you're on social media, which obviously all of you are that are watching this, I beg you and I implore you, do not put anything on your wall that will actually fan those flames. Please spread the word of Jesus Christ. If you're going to be using social media for that, use it for the right reason. Spread the word of Jesus Christ. Don't sit there and talk about conspiracy theories and all of this. That's just of Satan. That's just something that Satan uses to divide us. We have to come together, as Galatians 3 verse 28 says, for we are all one in Jesus Christ. We've got to throw this racism thing away, and as Christians, it's our duty and it's our responsibility to make sure that we're telling everybody that, hey, you know what? We're all alike. If you're suffering from anything about any kind of hatred or anger or towards any kind of race, it doesn't have to be African American, it can be Native American, Asian, or whatever, you need to go and search your soul and ask God for first forgiveness and second to take that away. So I'm going to stop there. I'm kind of a little irate and having everything, like I said, happen to me today. I do realize that there will be people who will judge you based on certain things. So forgive me for my rant. I kind of probably went a little deeper than I thought or wanted to, but that's where God led me, so that's it. So starting tomorrow morning, what I'm going to be doing on these Godcasts is I'm going to start walking through the book of Acts tomorrow. The book of Acts is truly one of my favorite books in the Bible because it talks, and it's kind of like what I call the pivot point. It's the axle of the tire. It's where Jesus had done what his earthly ministry, he had completed it, he had risen, he was resurrected, and then he went out for 40 days and kind of transitioned and told his disciples, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to ascend into the kingdom of heaven. This is your game plan. This is what you need to do. And that's what the book of Acts is. It's kind of like a bridge between the time Jesus ascended into the kingdom of heaven and how the disciples and the early disciples started going forward and creating a church. And there's a lot of division within the church now too. So anyway, forgive me for my rant, forgive me for my rave, but this this racism thing and judging people by their appearances has got to go, because if you want to be judged proper, and if you want to be judged on what's in your heart, you need to do the same to others. So anyway, I'm not accusing anybody, by the way. Once again, please keep me in prayer. I don't know what I'm going to be doing Friday night. I go in and get the teeth knocked out, so don't know how that's going to affect this. So please keep me in prayer. It's kind of a very daunting thing. So anyway, I love you guys to death. I love you to pieces. I'll be praying for you. And we'll talk to you tomorrow morning and start looking chapter by chapter through the book of Acts. Love you. And once again, I'll be praying for you.